All right, Awesemo, here we go. It's your old pal EMac, joined by Ryan. You know him better as RynPak here, as we're getting ready for NBA Live Before Lock. 7 games heading into a 7 o'clock tip-off here. We've got 3 games going at 7 o'clock. One thing I wanted to point out to everybody yesterday was there was some shifting things. We were trying to wait for some later news. There was only one early game, and it was that Detroit Phoenix game. So what I did is I just took everybody in that game out of my player pool and focused with the 7:30 start, and I had a very nice night last night. How did things go for you, Ryan?
Not too well. I was kind of heavy on the Orlando guys, and no one really got there in a position where there were limited bodies, and they just got absolutely waxed by the Rockets. Cole Anthony got humbled by John Wall last night, and I luckily I was way under the field on him. But it it felt like a weird night for me. I felt like there was a huge advantage of waiting on, like you said, for the later games, and especially once we got the situation in Sacramento and whatnot. And I was really hoping that Chris Boucher would start over there in Toronto, and he didn't. But he still put up 50 fantasy points, and that was really bummed because I had quite a bit, and I was hesitant to go back there after they ruled Len was starting. But it is what it is.
Yeah, that was I was not worried about Alex Len. I was surprised that Baines was a DNP. I did not know that was in the realm of outcomes. I don't know if that was kind of a rest thing, but he has not done nearly as well as I thought he was going to do with Toronto in the absence of their big men. But we're going to talk about tonight's slate, more on Toronto later. If you guys don't follow me on Twitter, don't follow Awesemo_COM or Awesemo NBA, you're not going to know about the Fred Van Elite Fan Club contest. We had another winner last night, 2-time winner already this season. If you win with an Awesemo avatar, we'll get you 30 free days of Awesemo All Access Premium content. Don't want to wait for tomorrow? Use the promo code 2021. That is going to expire tomorrow. Get you 21 days of Awesemo for just $20. You want to sign up for the full year? We'll give you a 20% discount. Use the promo code. I believe it's BABY. Is that correct? Happy. It's happy. I was watching Dirty Dancing, and I was thinking nobody puts baby in the corner. Yeah, guilty pleasure. That one in Roadhouse. Patrick Swayze, a golden god. The original Red Dawn. He's in some really good movies. But let's get back to tonight's games. A couple big moving parts right now. No Russell Westbrook. No surprise. They've already said he's not going to play on consecutive nights this year. The surprise was that he played last night. I thought for sure he would play tonight. Partially it's the NBA TV game, partially because it's back in Washington, and it would have given him an extra day to heal that dislocated finger, but he did not. So he's out tonight. I believe Halzino Neto is going to be starting tonight. We'll talk about that. I have some thoughts on that one, but in the meantime, hit the thumbs up, the like button. We appreciate it. Also subscribe. We're on our drive to 50,000 before the Super Bowl. We can almost reach out and touch that. And when we get to 50,000, we're going to have some special prizes. You guys don't know, we all have different jobs here at Awesemo behind the scenes that you're not aware of, be it editing, be it helping out with payroll, be doing other things. Ryan here is one of our marketing guys. He's also on social media. So we are men of many hats here. Any hint of what a 50,000 YouTube subscriber giveaway would be? Feels like almost one full year of Awesemo. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there, asking for the fans.
I've got to keep it a surprise. I mean, if that's going to come out during the Super Bowl, we're going to have to wait till that weekend.
All right. So think about that. Those are the good deals we have. The 20% off of the annual package. When that goes away, you're not going to get that one again until January. It's the best deal that we do by far. And you'll hear us say that, but we selectively arrange these in a certain way. We've got hockey starting in just a few days. So jump on that 21 days for $20. Use the promo code 2021 and get on in there. So besides Westbrook being out, we have Giannis has been downgraded to questionable. Very good chance he probably just sits this one out tonight. They're not really going to need him against Cleveland. So why even go through the motions? If he's out, well, we'll talk about when it gets to that game. There's no real windmill slam plays, but it does give a boost to several players across the board. Some of the obvious and some of the not so obvious, but Ryan will hit on that for us. Dallas is missing Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Jalen Brunson. They are all in the COVID protocol. Josh Richardson actually was a positive test. The other two close contacts. Fingers crossed we don't have anything to worry about here from Luka Doncic because he is going to be a prime option tonight, but that's opening up just a a boatload, a plethora, if you will, a cornucopia of value. We have Darius Garland out for Cleveland. And then for Orlando, they're on a back-to-back. No starter played more than 31 minutes. That was Gary Clark. And then Vooch played 30 last night. They got their asses kicked, lost by, I think, 42 or something like that. In Houston, they're not doing the Texas three-step because San Antonio, of course, is in Minnesota. But we've got Orlando has Fournier's out. Aaron Gordon is back in. And then the other big news we're waiting on to see is Karl Anthony Towns. He could be back from his injury tonight going against San Antonio. Those two teams reprise this same game tomorrow in San Antonio. We're seeing, or probably in Minnesota, we're seeing a lot of same city back-to-backs. You're going to see a ton of these when it gets to NHL, but the league is trying to limit some of the travel, the close quarters in the various transportation modes whatsoever, or however they're getting to and from games. So you'll see some of these. That's going to be something a little more common. All right, well, let's get over here to our first one, and we have it's the Miami and Washington game. This is one I'm looking forward to. So key things that we need to know here: Miami favored by 7, even though this one is in Washington. The home fans, well, they're not going to be cheering too loud. They will be virtually, but no fans in the stadiums here. But Russell Westbrook out. Halzino Raul Neto is going to start. I prefer Ish Smith. Do you have a lean one way or the other here? Now, I'm going to set this up for you, and then you run through all of Washington with this one. But we have the two games where Neto started for Westbrook. The last one, he basically literally had a career game. 5th highest minutes in his career, basically highest points, most field goal attempts, right up there with assists, right up there with steals, right up there with rebounds. I don't foresee that again against Miami. That's what has me leaning a little more towards Ish Smith. I think they're both fine if you're playing in cash. I would prefer to only play one of them on most of my lineups. But for me, I want to pivot away from Neto here with some Ish Smith. How are you reading the Washington game? And are we worried about this tough defense, team concept defense from Miami when Washington plays so damn fast?
So first thing about defense, did you hear Bradley Beal's post-game comments saying they can't even guard a parked car? So like that's how poor that Washington defense is, because that's how fast they play. Obviously, no Russell Westbrook there is pretty big news over there. That's immediately I look at Bradley Beal. He's playing against Miami. I would consider Miami an average to below average matchup, just the way things are starting off this season so far. Beal has performed decent against Miami. Nothing great. He had one game north of 50 fantasy points last time out, and everything else that was below 40. So, and last year Bradley Beal is kind of running out with the same team he is tonight. So keep that in mind for Bradley Beal. I know a lot of people are going to go to him. Raul Neto, someone who I was very, very shocked by his performance in the preseason, and then the time against Chicago when I believe he started for Westbrook and Orlando earlier in the season. I'm hesitant to go to Raul Neto at 4,200, especially today where there's some very nice pay up guard options where their ceiling is like 60, 70 fantasy points, especially on FanDuel, and Luka, Dame Lillard, Trae Young just lead the way. And even the mid tier in the guard position, I just feel the upside's greater. And anytime in DFS, you just want to shoot for that upside. And I feel comfortable going there. I think Neto is a fine value play, though. I think can't really go wrong there. But it's an average to below average matchup against Miami. On the front court side of things, I think Thomas Bryant is interesting as well, especially on FanDuel. He's 6,400. I think we can consider that as well. But the reason why I'm just a little cautious with this game, I really want to be able to focus on the later games as well, just because of the news that we're going to be pending, especially with Giannis being questionable and Karl Towns being questionable as well. I think if Karl Towns plays, I really like him. And like you said yesterday, it really paid off for you just by waiting on that news, and backloading your lineups has been pretty much a profitable thing to do this year so far.
All Right. One question we got in the premium Slack chat. Again, that's one of the features we have here at Awesemo. When you are a subscriber, you can get access to the chat. Even if you come in on one of the express packages, you still get access to all of Slack. There's a lot of good discussions going on around the clock. We're getting more and more into wagering here. You have access, of course, to Ben Raza, and we have a whole host of other people that are very, very knowledgeable. We're getting more of them some airtime. Your partner in crime on the Slate Starter podcast series, Eric, my fellow Eric, he is very, very sharp when it comes to wagering, and he's someone that I think we might see some more active Slack channels with in-game wagering and fun like that. Because here in Virginia, it's now legal to sports bet. They're just working out the details of how we're going to do it. So we can't quite do it yet, but I'm looking forward to that. And I have never actually placed a legitimate legal sports wager. So I'm looking forward to learning from you guys so I can get ahead. But you guys look shocked. When I go to Vegas, I never placed a bet. I play blackjack and video poker and roulette and all the fish games.
I guess tweet at EMac. I guess tweet at EMac what he was doing in Vegas with all the money he was blowing back in his 20s.
We used to go there probably every 4 or 5 months because that was Bachelor Party Central. I lived in Seattle, so we would go all the time. I never really got into it, but in any event, that's interesting. So for me, I kind of said sort of my piece here on the Washington side, just to piggyback on what Ryan was saying. This is one of the games I'm kind of interested in early, but it's the obvious place. Rabashua in the premium chat did ask, hey, there was a lot of interaction last night between Jason Tatum and Bradley Beal. Any worries about him being a late scratch? Well, we would still know before tip off because this is the 7:00 games. There's always a chance, though I suspect we would have heard by now. Now, the NBA is kind of the abundance of caution. We haven't really seen them do this yet of will the player guard at each other a lot, but we do know that that could be enough to transfer anything from COVID, as we saw with Rudy Gobert, and I can't remember who the player he was guarding that night before, but ended up they also back in March ended up being positive. But I think we're okay at this point. We shall see, but it shouldn't impact the slate.
Well, keep in mind, last night, Jonas Valanciunas against the Nets, he got a positive PCR test, and they ruled him out at halftime. So keep in mind that can happen to anyone playing. So, and just like any injury now, that's a COVID positive test things are gonna happen like that, and they're gonna rule players out in the middle of the game.
All right. The Miami side, we were talking a little bit pre-show. Really like Bam out of Iowa here. Up-paced game should showcase all of his talents. Jimmy Butler contributes a little bit of everything, maybe a little Goran Dragic, but I'm not really doing cartwheels for any of this Miami Heat. Guys, they seem to be relatively appropriately priced, and or we are paying with popularity, aka ownership, coming along with those that are running at a slight discount on both of the main sites. Anything stand up for you with the Heat?
I think we can go to Kelly Olynyk as a potential low-owned play. I like his price tag, and the matchup against Washington is pretty favorable. You're going to like quite a bit of these Miami guys against Washington. To say I have confidence in one is really hard just because of how well they spread out that offense. And I think we can definitely consider Jimmy Butler as well. I think he has an upside here, but they're kind of just limiting his minutes. We haven't seen north of 33 minutes yet. I believe he just played 36 minutes in the opener, then he got hurt. So they might be a little cautious with his minutes. Keep that in mind. There's going to be a Miami player who's going to be good. I think I'll take my chances with the front court in Olynyk or Bam.
All right, that sounds good. Moving on to some of our other games here. The other 7:00 game, Phoenix Suns, Indiana Pacers. While I believe Chris Paul is a major upgrade, and I am surprised at how well Phoenix has been doing, we are seeing this cut in a little bit to Devin Booker's fantasy production. We are also seeing DeAndre Ayton. Beal is out per the news god.
All right, so
okay,
even more news.
So yikes. Well, Rabashua, We'll see, but you may have been ahead of the curve on that one, my friend. We'll continue on until we know a little bit more, and we'll see who else is going to be starting there. So nobody is really getting me excited here for the Suns. I think they're all kind of appropriate here. DeAndre Ayton not quite playing as many minutes as he was down the stretch the last couple of seasons when he was a complete fantasy monster. We do like this matchup for him against the Indiana Bigs. They are one of the in the bottom third of the league for rebound rates. We don't know we don't have starting lineups here yet for the Pacers, but I do want to point out that Victor Oladipo and Malcolm Brogdon have both been playing very, very well. It looks like Oladipo was 2-year injury, I guess, recovering for him from that catastrophic injury. And then Domantas Sabonis is kind of like, Luka Doncic light, shall we say, does a little bit of everything. And wow, what a phenomenal trade that ended up being there for Paul George, getting them to the Pacers. What do you like from the Phoenix and Pacers side of things here?
Safe to say I don't have much interest in this game. Obviously, the Vegas implied total is kind of the reason why I'm leaning that way. But I think Sabonis is just one of the safest plays on the day. I think he's pretty much a lock to get you to 40 fantasy points nowadays. A double-double is likely over there on DK, which is a nice bonus to have. And that's one thing to also consider. But outside of that, I mean, Phoenix is on a back-to-back. Devin Booker obviously can get an upside. That game last night did go into overtime. But no one else really on the Pacers stands out to me. Do you have any real interest on anyone in this game that stands out to you? I know last night you faded the Phoenix game. Is that kind of a likely outcome for you today?
Most likely. I want to make sure I have and I don't want really more than one of anybody on from this game on my lineups, but I will probably have between 5 and 15% of Brogdon, Oladipo, and then Domantas Sabonis. And that's really what I like from the Pacers side of things. I will have the ability to get 5% of anybody from Phoenix, but I'm not really looking to those guys just because we have all the Dallas value. We'll see what we've got in Washington here. The one problem with Westbrook, once Beal's obviously out, they have no offense. It's going to completely collapse. So now we're, kind of looking back at that one. What do we got? Davis Bertans raining threes, where they're going against an incredibly good schematic defense there from Coach Spoelstra. This now, I think, weakens any of the Wizards' play, because there's who's going to step up for them at this point.
I think we could maybe consider Troy Brown Jr. just getting more rotational run as well.
But with nobody to focus on the defense, that just makes me a little nervous. Are they even going to be functional at this point?
You do bring up a good point. They could be the Orlando Magic of tonight. But I do think
which,
one
by
of
the
them,
way, they are awesome when both of and I'm now an adopted Wizards fan because clearly the Seattle Supersonics not coming back, but they will be back at some point here. But I can't root for the Thunder, so I'm out here in DC. I've kind of adopted the Wizards, so I watch a lot of their games. They're an amazing offense. They have a great flow. They have everything. But now that they're missing their two biggest threats, we could see this implode against a competent team defense, even with the reserves going against them. Does this decrease any of your interest in the Miami side as well?
Sure. Blowout's definitely on the table, and Spoelstra can do anything he really wants. As we're always hesitant with his rotations. I'm obviously going to be a little skeptical on this game staying close for long periods of time, but I do want to be able to take some shots on some of the Washington value. I think one of them could get there. I don't mind Bertans, Hachimura, or maybe even Troy Brown. This is all just like GPP values that I'm willing to take some shots at. One of them I think will be good. We'll see if that comes out to fruition or not.
Yeah. Well, and we'll circle back as we know a little bit more. I don't think we have the official starting line. Here I got too many.
Giannis also just got ruled out as well.
Okay. To borrow a phrase from a friend of Awesemo, Pete Overzet, the slate has just been turned on its head. All right, let's get on to the 7:30 games here. We have a couple of them. Let me get over to my sheet. Atlanta Hawks, Charlotte Hornets here. This one's 228.5. Over under here, we have Devontae Graham, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, Bismack Biyombo starting for the Hornets. That means LaMelo Ball still coming off of the bench. I like him a lot. I'm considering him for cash, particularly on DK at 6,700. Not sure I'm going to get there, but we'll see. The Giannis stuff is really going to flip things around. I do want to say that if we get, we're only at 200 likes. We get to, let's say 350 likes. I'll put 10 DK head-to-heads out there for you guys to snipe in the lobby. But get us up to 350 likes. We do appreciate that. Hit that subscribe button. That would help us on our march towards 50,000. On the other side here, we have Trae Young, Cam Reddish, likely starting lineup of Trae Young, Cam Reddish, John Collins, Clint Capella, probably DeAndre Hunter. Adam pointed out on the earlier show that Charlotte is one of the better teams at defending the pick and roll. He points this out, and he was saying, hey, Trae Young can still have a good game. He didn't have a great game the last time against them. He said he hadn't looked into all the necessary details, but Trae Young is one of the is leading the league in pick and roll interactions, right? So was it a bad game? Who knows? All it takes is for him to rain down a few threes, and that's not going to be a problem anymore, etc. But something worth pointing out here. John Collins, a little bit unhappy with Trae Young, apparently. Not sure why. These guys are building something here. They seem to be they were off to a hot start. They've lost a couple. I think they're about where they should be in the standings. But for me, the one play that stands out the most is the increasing price tag of Clint Capella. I'm okay paying for it, but now I got to do a lap through everything again now that Giannis is out. And I really like Willie Cauley-Stein. We'll get to that one. What do you like here from our last 7 o'clock game here with the Hawks and Hornets?
Yeah. Obviously, you're going to like this matchup in terms of like how fast these teams are going to play at. LaMelo Ball just missed out on triple-double. He's been very, very impressive to start off his rookie year. Kind of showed up that he's the better ball brother against Lonzo last night. We'll see how long that lasts for, but I like LaMelo Ball. I think the nice thing about him, he picks up a lot of other peripherals, his assists and rebounds and whatnot. And honestly, I would like to see him. I would like to see like a 3-guard lineup on the court for a long time for Borrego and his offense, and maybe play Hayward at the 4 just to go a little small. But I doubt they'll do that. I don't mind LaMelo in cash at all. Maybe he's kind of getting like a lot of attention. Maybe his ownership might be a little over-owned potentially, but based off our ownership projections, it's coming in pretty low right now. So I don't mind him whatsoever. I've really been targeting Gordon Hayward all year just because of his new offensive role, and he's been pretty solid throughout the whole season so far. On the other side of things in the Hawks, Trae Young obviously has an upside as big as anyone, and last year against Charlotte, he had some very solid games around north of 40, and some games even above 50 fantasy points. His shot volume has dropped a little bit just because of the new additions and the improvements in the games of DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish. So 9,400, he's like a fine pivot off of like the expensive guards, especially on FanDuel. I'm not that interested in Clint Capella's price tag, but I do understand why you'd be interested in paying for that. He seems like a very safe option. It seems like he's always going to get you around 30 fantasy points, but I don't know if 50 fantasy points is on the table against Charlotte.
Yes, and that's kind of an upside question. 30 feels like pretty much a lock, probably a flirtation with the 40 fantasy point plateau. The 50, don't know. We'll see. So that's where I was saying, we have to do another lap here through this stuff to see what's going on with everything else. But as we know with NBA DFS, it is ever shifting. So we want to be malleable when it comes to changing our strategy. I didn't realize there's no 7:30 games tonight. Cool.
No, there are no 7:30 games.
But there are 3 7 o'clock games. So I've set my lineups and just defaulted everything to 8 o'clock or later. So if things go sideways, and if you have watched me on any of these live before locks, you know things go sideways. At least I have that little bit of protection. I see we're up around 250 likes. Get us that 300, 350. I'll drop some head-to-heads in there. You guys can take advantage of that one. San Antonio Spurs, Minnesota Timberwolves. The wild card here, of course, is going to be Karl Anthony Towns. If he plays, and again, these two teams reprise this same matchup tomorrow. If he plays, how many minutes do you think we're going to get? And what do you think the likelihood of him playing is? We have plenty of options after this. We've got four teams worth of players to look at. So there are plenty of pivots, et cetera, available. So we're not painting ourselves into a corner. But how excited are you feeling about somebody who's 9,600 here on DK, 10-2 on FanDuel, and then 48 on Yahoo?
Yeah, I think I'll put it at 50-50 he plays, just because that's what the questionable mark ruling is. So since it was a upper body injury, I'm not too concerned about his conditioning. And I like Karl-Anthony Towns just because, like, we know what his upside can be. And I don't think anyone on the Spurs is built defensively to slow him down. And this Minnesota team desperately needs all aspects of his game. And it's as bad as that sounds, because he's so bad on defense, but so amazing on offense. I'm going to like Karl-Anthony Towns. I think his ownership will be very, very low owned. And as ridiculous as it sounds, he could be in play for like the highest scoring player on the slate. And at his ownership, I'm going to like that right now, especially that we've lost Beal. And I think Karl-Anthony Towns is in that conversation. Obviously, you won't be projecting him similar to Luka, but he's going to come in at very, very minimal ownership.
All right. Oh, I just got a text I'm looking at a text I got last night from my wife. Said, I'm hoping you're the one that went in and out of the front door at 12:51 a.m. last night. I was asleep. This is weird.
We just did get news that he does have a minutes limit if he plays. So take back what I just said. That does concern me quite a bit. Can Karl-Anthony Towns put up 50 fantasy points in 25 minutes? It could happen, but 50 fantasy points is very unlikely if he's on a minutes limit. And maybe on a short slate, yeah, you can take some chances. I know there's some 8 p.m. only slates on the DFS websites.
All right, sorry, I was looking at my alerts and that one caught me off guard because we've had Anyway, we'll deal with that one. Oh yeah, Seth says that was him coming in at 12:51. All right, well, you know what? Hope you found some stuff you liked in the fridge. Okay, let's look at. All right. San Antonio not playing defense as well as they have in the past. They are playing faster. Everybody's playing faster. When we started DFS, really getting into it, 7 years ago, a 210 over under was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is really happening. We saw it in the 190s all the time. Basketball has completely changed. Interesting options here on both sides. I think everybody on Minnesota is priced appropriately because we haven't had Karl-Anthony Towns for enough games here where they're priced to have him not come in and take up a bunch of usage. The interesting things on the Spurs side here. So they are favored by, where is it? About 4.5 points, depending on the site you go to. We'll talk about Awesemo Odd Shopper at some point here. But DeJounte Murray, I think, is one of my core plays. I think he's one of the guys that is going to be overlooked as we go extreme stars and scrubs, though we are starting to run out of some stars to pay up for with no Beal and no Giannis. But I think Murray is somebody that is intriguing to me. I don't hate Keldon Johnson. I'm not really sure what to do with him. To me, he feels more like I don't know, just kind of a middle of the road player, but he's been okay. This is a perfect matchup for him. There could be some extra minutes because they are playing again tomorrow. If the Spurs get up, I expect we maybe see somewhat suppressed minutes for LaMarcus Aldridge, for DeMar DeRozan. That means they might play 32 instead of 36. These are both winnable games. They're going to try to get them. So if it's still close, they're going to, those are going to be the guys that are out there. But if they're up, they've got this one back tomorrow. I mean, we could see a back-to-back sweep here by feels like baseball. We could see a back-to-back sweep here in the series by Coach Pop and the Spurs. Those are the three guys I'm focusing on the most. Really not interested in, or I guess four guys, really not interested in anybody else. And Keldon Johnson, I'm right on the fence with. What do you want to do here with the Spurs? Because I think this matchup for them is chef's kiss.
This matchup is like a red carpet of a matchup. This Minnesota
235 over under. Good God, right? And that was like 40 points higher than the average of what it was when we started doing DFS.
Yeah, this is like an amazing matchup for the Spurs. There's going to be multiple Spurs players who are going to be good in this matchup. I'm going to like DeMar DeRozan and DeJounte Murray quite a bit. There's no defense being played on the Minnesota side of things whatsoever. I'm not too sure what Ryan Saunders is doing as a coach. A lot of his rotation decisions make little to no sense. On the other side, outside of DeMar and DeJounte Murray, going back to your Kelton Johnson thing, he's been pretty impressive to start the season. I also am very impressed by his shooting performances quite a bit. He's finally come down to earth. He went 2 of 10 last time out. I think we could jump back to him just because of the matchup against Minnesota. I do think he's shooting a little above his head, but I think you could potentially take options with LaMarcus Aldridge, who was very impressive against the Lakers matchup. He was dealing with an injury last week, but he played north of 30 minutes. In 30 minutes of LaMarcus Aldridge in this matchup, 50 fantasy points could happen. That's how easy this matchup is. And if he could do that, if you put up, I believe you put up 28 real points in a tough Lakers front court, this is the opposite of tough in Minnesota for him. So at 6,400 on FanDuel seems like a nice option. Do you have an Aldridge take by any chance?
At 6,300 on DK, I'm fine. I think he only has center eligibility at this point. I don't think he has power forward eligibility anymore because, of course, DeMar DeRozan does on this one. So I'm good with it. I don't dislike it. It's just that, and I think he's appropriately priced. So I'm only playing on DK tonight. But I think with the various position flexibility that we have, as well as his low, though appropriate, $6,300 price point, and him coming back from, was it a sore knee, I think it was, or a wrench knee of some sort. So I think he's good. I think he's solid. You sort of pointed out the 8 o'clock slate. Absolutely in my plans there. Probably a 10% guy at most on the full 7-game slate, but I'm not shying away from it by any stretch. But for me, it's really going to be DeJounte Murray 1, DeMar DeRozan 2, I guess Aldridge 3, just because Keldon Johnson, a little bit of a question mark there. Anything else from this game before we head on to Cleveland and the Bucks?
No, I think there's some important news that we should talk about in the Orlando Dallas game, but let's continue on to the Cleveland and Bucks game.
All right, since that is the 8 o'clock game, they get to go next. We have a 221.5 over under here. We have the Bucks. Looks like they're favored by 10. Now it went down a little bit without Giannis. I think that was 12.5 earlier today. So we know Giannis is out. We aren't 100% do we have any confirmation on who is replacing him? I'm guessing it's going to be Bobby Portis, but that's no real guarantee because he's kind of been playing a lot of backup center as well and sharing time there with Brook Lopez a little bit here. But without Giannis, we should see a nice trickle-down effect. Holiday, yes. Chris Middleton, definitely DK Cash. Bobby Portis, I keep coming back to him. He's such a good fantasy per minute producer, about 1.1, 1.2, but he's been on like 9 teams. I'm joking. He's been on 5 teams for a reason. And, he did his turn through Washington. He was in New York. He was in Chicago. Here we are now. He's like Jabari Parker, former Bucks player. Jabari Parker is out tonight. Oh, by the way, Colin, who was our last guy? Was Colin Sexton out?
Colin Sexton was also just confirmed out. Yes.
Okay, so yikes, a lot of moving parts here. Let's just focus on the Bucks. Start us off with about who benefits the most from Giannis not playing tonight.
Well, everyone. Just like how that's just who Giannis is.
What? When an MVP isn't playing, everybody else has to fill in the void? Come on, Ryan.
So obviously, I'm gonna put my favorite Buck in this situation. 1A and 1B are Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. And then Bobby Portis is fine option. Brook Lopez also gets a significant bump in the situation. Keep an eye on the starting lineup situation. Do you think they might start DJ Augustine by any chance? I have a tough read on how they might go the starting lineup route.
So yes. Now, so looking at it, so we know we got Drummond, but there's no Kevin Love. So all of a sudden, we're looking at Larry Nance at power forward, but he's kind of a small forward as well. So did they really need to go big? And that's why I was kind of like, is it really going to be Bobby Portis? That doesn't feel like the 1-for-1 I'm expecting. Does Bobby Portis see increased minutes through the back half of the rotation? Absolutely. Is he in play? You betcha. Is he going to be the guy that starts? I don't know, because we're looking at Dotson, probably Okoro, probably Shetty, because starting for Cleveland, but they obviously no Garland, no Sexton, or as Greg likes to always point out, the Sexland backcourt. I don't know. You Tinder people, I don't know what you guys are up to, but I kind of think Portis is going to come off the bench. That's still where I'm at. Now, is it DJ Augustine? I don't know. Don't they still have an Antetokounmpo on the lineup who could play as well? besides Giannis?
So Thanasis was in the rotation last night.
I'm not
And
joking because he
yeah.
was. He did just play. So.
Yeah, he played last night. He was in the rotation. I don't have much interest in Thanasis, but I think
He has the right name on the back of his jersey, but we're not going to play him.
If you're for those who are playing 1 to 3 lineups or around that range, it's going to be tough for me not to have one of Holiday or one of Middleton against this Cleveland matchup. I think those are both the safest options, and not only are they safe, they also have the highest upside potentially in the Bucks without Giannis. So I like Holiday and Middleton, and I don't think you have to get really too cute. Their salaries are fine. They could both put up north of 40 fantasy points and pay off their salaries pretty well.
All right. On the Cleveland side, how are we feeling about Andre Drummond, Larry Nance? Those would be the two that are catching my eye. And then secret trivia question. Do you know how many years JaVale McGee has been in the league now?
I want to say JaVale McGee has been in and out of the league for 12 years.
I think it's 13, but I'm going to double check.
I thought I was close.
In the meantime, let's talk about viable options from Cleveland. Though he's not viable, but we don't want to play him.
Yeah. We saw what happened with Cleveland last time with no Sexton. And that was really kind of a disaster against what ended up going down against Memphis. Andre Drummond finally played north of 30 minutes, mid 30 minutes. He's the worst shooting 7-footer ever, I feel like, in the NBA. He went 9 of 20 from the field. Do you know how disappointing that is for Andre Drummond? And I think Drummond definitely has an upside. Brook Lopez might pull him away from the 3-point arc. We'll see what Cleveland might do. Maybe they put Nance on Lopez to guard the perimeter. I'm not too sure. I like Drummond just because we know what his safe option can be. Additionally, I think we could definitely consider other Cavs is Nance, especially on FanDuel, just because he's so good at picking up those FanDuel specific stats and steals and blocks. He can pick those up in a hurry, but there's just a ton of value that's opened up now. I feel a little hesitant on the Cleveland side of things.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, similar to Miami, good team defense. Generally, they can replace a key player or two just from based on what they're doing systematically. And Cleveland missing a couple of their ball handlers. We're probably going to be seeing point guard, or I don't want to say point guard, facilitator, Shetty Osman at this point, but just makes it tough. Similar to the Wizards, it's like you miss enough key people at one spot. This is not as bad as Denver starting a wide receiver at quarterback a couple of weeks ago, like we saw in the NFL. But it's really going to upset the apple cart when you're voiding some of your key positions there. Let's hit our 8:30 game. So we talked here a little bit. A bunch of people are out for the Mavericks. Josh Richardson has the positive COVID test, so we know that Jalen Brunson is out for close contact, and I am blanking on the other guys. So let me look at my notes here. Dorian Finney-Smith also out. Obviously, no Kristaps Porzingis. I think now that we've lost Giannis, we're going to see a surge in popularity for Luka Doncic, who has been phenomenal. A couple substandard games before and after New Year's. Otherwise, he has been a golden god. I really like him. He was the cover boy in my article today. I'm leaning towards him. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. Should pick up some extra shots. Willie Cauley-Stein has started the last 2 games. He should be in line for 25 to 26 minutes is sort of my read on that one. I'm not excited by Dwight Powell. I'm okay with Maxi Kleber, Maximilian Kleber, if you are pronouncing it with a poor German accent there. What do you want to do here with the Mavericks side of things? And it does look like Aaron Gordon he's trending to starting. He was out there last game. Fournier should be out.
Yeah, the Maverick side of things is pretty important. No Richardson, no Brunson. That's pretty significant minutes, and no Dorian Finney-Smith. I'm going to have to like my guy Trey Burke, who went to Michigan and gave me one of my favorite Michigan moments while I was at the school when he hit the shot against Kansas, for those who watched that Elite 8 game, or Sweet 16 game, excuse me there. But Trey Burke coming in at seems pretty exciting. He's going to be paired up with his Michigan backcourt mate and Tim Hardaway Jr. I expect Hardaway Jr. to now enter the starting lineup again. and played quite a bit of minutes. Granted, we just saw what Houston did to this Orlando team that's pretty much ravaged with injuries across the board, but they do get Aaron Gordon back. I'm going to like Luka quite a bit. I'm going to have to project him as the highest fantasy player on the day so far. And that's going to be really important because we just lost out on Giannis and Beal. Yeah. My second favorite in terms of just pure value, it's got to be Trey Burke. And then I think you can take shots in the front court with Maxi Kleba and Willie Cauley-Stein. But my two favorite Mavs have to be Luka and Trey.
All right, so Trey Burke, kind of perfect journeyman, can't hit water if he falls out of a boat, but he's the NBA Jams He's on Fire player. If you catch him in the right moment, he can definitely carry you. I want to say, is he 3K on DK? Let's go look over there. Sorry, too many tabs open. He is, yes, $3,000 on DK. He is $4,100 on FanDuel and $10 on Yahoo. He was out with an illness, non-COVID related. That way he missed Thursday's game. Obviously, we're 48 hours or so away from that, so he should be good to go here. He's like a homeless man's Vinny Johnson. For any of you who watch the Bad Boys Pistons, never met a shot he didn't like. Doesn't make nearly as many as Vinny Johnson did. So I like him. I think he's cash viable at the minimum on DraftKings. Speaking of DraftKings cash, get us up to 350 likes. Come on, guys. We have we have 2,400 concurrent viewers, and we have 330 likes. Come on, get us up there. I'll drop 10 $1 head-to-heads in there, and you can laugh at me all night, scoop them up, and enjoy those. So so Burke, obviously key. I'm in on Willie Cauley. I let's flip it. How many Mavs is too many? Let's set Doncic aside. Of those other people, would you go 4 if Doncic is included? So that's what I'm saying. 3 non-Doncic. Is that your max, or is it 2?
That's a tough question. There depends on like what the rest of your lineup looks like. They still have enough bodies there. It's not like a Philadelphia 76ers situation what happened earlier this afternoon where they just had 7 bodies, 8 listed. But
oh God, James Johnson.
Yeah,
I didn't even mention him.
So
wait, good God, is that Boban music?
I don't know. Boban's going to get run if they blow out the Magic, but I think 2 is fine. I think you can go to 3, but 4 might be a little pushing it.
You can only do one of Boban and James Johnson, though, right? Well, or do you want them both in your lineup? Because those guys could get between 0 and 35 fantasy points, and I'm not even joking. Boban can DNP tonight.
Yeah,
it's all up to Rick Carlisle.
Yeah, those are all risky options. I don't think it's not necessary to get that risky on the full main slate. I think you could go Luka, Tim Hardaway, Trey Burke, and then potentially look at a Kleber. But even
Cauley-Stein, maybe.
Yeah, or Cauley-Stein. But those 4 should be okay. And I'm saying that with a lot like other less confidence, just because there's a lot of other value that has opened up in the Washington and Milwaukee side of things.
All right. Oh, we're up to 420 on the likes. So I will drop those 10 head-to-heads into the DK lobby. Those are username EMac. I have been on there long enough. I didn't need to put numbers behind the name. So there we are on that one. From the Orlando side, Vooch only had to play 30 minutes last night. He now sort of becomes one of our de facto pay up options since we've lost a few guys. However, that does cost us a center slot. We only get 1 of those on FanDuel, and we get 2 on DK and Yahoo, or the ability to play 2 centers. There's a lot of other value options at center here. How are you feeling about Vooch? What happens with Aaron Gordon? How many minutes are you thinking about with him? We know that, the rookie point guard, that's name is escaping me at the moment. Cole Anthony is probably going to play somewhere between 26 and 29 minutes, particularly on this back-to-back. They've said they don't want to push him too much here, so that kind of takes a little love out of there. Terrence Ross somehow is 6,400 on DK, losing interest rapidly there for me, even though he is from the University of Washington. I'm down to Vooch only if I'm eyeballing this really quickly from the Magic side.
Yeah,
Is that makes sense? Am I missing out on anything here?
Now, Nikola Vucevic is probably my just favorite Magic player just to roster night in and night out. Even last night, he was he like in those limited minutes because it was a blowout against Houston. I believe he got to around just shy of 40 fantasy points. It could be mistaken there. And I think he's obviously their lead dog now with no Fournier, no Fultz. Aaron Gordon is back, so that doesn't really necessarily help him, but I still think Vooch is option number one. And he's just a safe guy like Sabonis. I feel like 40 fantasy points is usually his floor, and he could easily get up to 50 tonight. So I don't mind Nikola Vucevic whatsoever.
All right, the DK head-to-heads are in there. Enjoy. I'll put a limiter on them so you can only grab one, but grab them. They do go quickly. All right, continuing along here as we have 14 minutes until we get to lock. We have we made it. We only have one more game here. Yep. So the 10 o'clock game, the late night hammer, the lone outpost. I thought there was a 9 o'clock game. I guess I was wrong. 10 o'clock here, hour and a half after everything else. We've got the Portland Trailblazers, the Sacramento Kings. Had a moment there in the first quarter last night, and then I went to bed and won all the monies after I fell asleep, which was an enjoyable night. Getting up to some messages and saying, "Nice job." Yeah, I cleared about $400, but not doing nothing crazy. But aim small, miss small is my mantra here. So we have Damian Lillard in phenomenal matchup. He becomes one of the de facto pay-up guys. I really don't like Robert Covington. I think he's a 3-and-D guy. It doesn't help him that you have Rodney Hood and Gary Trent Jr. He's not so much D as he is 3. And then you have Derek Jones. Who am I missing here? Hood, Jones, Covington. They all kind of cannibalize each other. Bothers me a little bit. You have an expensive CJ McCollum here on DK. He is just 900 less than Damian Lillard. I would rather go with Lillard. You have Yusuf Nurkic. 6,500 going against former running mate, which he played next to just in the playoffs last year. That would be Hassan Whiteside. I kind of have some interest in him at 3,200. I think they're going to need his size to go against the backcourt tonight. And then you've got Enes Kanter, Carmelo Anthony. For me, it kind of begins and ends with Damian Lillard on the Portland side. What do you like from the Blazers?
Well, we just saw what Toronto did to the Sacramento team last night. I believe they put up 141 points. And Portland could easily do that yet again. Sacramento's going to be on a back-to-back. We saw what Lillard did to Minnesota, and I like Lillard quite a bit. I know he's priced up to 9,700. Nurkic in the front court, I think he's coming around slowly but surely. He put up 30 fantasy points last time, but keep in mind that they did blow out Minnesota pretty quickly in the game. I like Nurkic yet again, someone who I've been attacking just because I think I want to be I want to be on Nurkic when he has that explosion game at 6,200 on FanDuel. Definitely stands out to me quite a bit. And Nurkic against Sacramento, I'm going to have to like that. There was a game last year, I believe, he put up north of 80 fantasy points against Sacramento. So keep that in mind. So if he's going to get north of 30 minutes, I think you could project him to obviously mid-30s and 50 fantasy points can be on the upside, especially for that price tag. I prefer Nurkic to Capella. Going back to the Capella conversation we had earlier, Rashawn Holmes on the other side seems like a fine option. Marvin Bagley, who I'm still skeptical of because they just play so good and he doesn't close games for them. De'Aaron Fox came back. He looked pretty healthy last time out and was pretty effective in his 25 minutes of play. There's going to be multiple guys in this game that are going to be really, really good. And I think just leaning towards Lillard and Nurkic on the Portland side of things and potentially even looking at a guy like, I believe if Buddy Hield is still priced to 5,200 on FanDuel could definitely work out for you as well.
All right. One thing we want to think about here, especially with Marvin Bagley here, a lot of people talking about, he's got upside. He's got upside. He has only played in the fourth quarter in about half of his games. Most of those games, he's only played between 2 and 4 minutes. A lot of times this is helpful to understand rotations and see where the closing units are. He has never actually ended the game thus far this season. Who knows what Coach Luke Walton is really doing, but I do want to point out that is an issue. So his upside is all based on him cleaning the glass, getting some putbacks, filling the lane, etc. And then when you're all excited and he's got 30 fantasy points, you're like, yeah, we're going to get 40 fantasy points. And then he doesn't set foot on the court in the fourth quarter. gut-wrenching when that happens. Gut-wrenching. All right. Go back to, for those, we got 9 minutes left. For those just tuning in, how are you feeling about Washington now that you have had a little bit of time to set that on the back burner, realize they're missing their two legitimate offensive threats? We'll give Davis Bertans and Thomas Bryant 0.75 each. So Washington has 3.5 NBA players on their team right now.
Starting for them now. So that even crowds the situation a bit more than I thought. They're going Neto, Robinson, Denny Avila, Rui Hachimura, and Thomas Bryant.
Abdia. No, it's phonetic. Don't look at it. Just say it. Because if you read it, you're going to say it wrong. But it's Abdia.
Abdia. All right, Denny Abdia. I have any interest on any of those guys right now? It would be tough. I think the highest upside out of any of them is probably going to be Thomas Bryant or Davis Bertans in terms of just raw fantasy points. But I don't have much confidence just because of this matchup. And there's enough bodies over there still. There's still I believe 10 potential players.
Yeah,
if Garrison Matthews is still there, so.
Yeah, so nothing overly exciting. Does this dampen anything that you have with regards to Miami? Those guys could probably get there in 3 quarters against the Wizards here. I think it maybe makes Kelly Olynyk Jr. or Kelly Olynyk a little more intriguing. So I was going with Kelly Oubre, and Kelly Olynyk is kind of, there we go. Senior moment.
Yeah, if Kelly Olynyk's going to get times than not, I'm just not sure if he'll get 30 minutes against this Washington matchup now.
Right. There's nobody's knee he can take out, as far as I can tell. That's crucial, but we shall see.
I think he's going to play mid-20s minutes, and I think you can have him for mid to high 20 fantasy points. And obviously the upside for more is there. And there's just other payoff options to consider. I think there's very, very good value in the Dallas game to look at. I prefer Dallas value compared to the Washington value for what that's worth. Is that how you is that your value stance as well?
Yes. When you're looking at so I'm just gonna upload my laptop. So when you're looking at the Luka Doncic, what percentage are you feeling at? 50, 60, 70% of your rosters?
Ooh, that is going to be a tough question, because I have yet to build any of my lineups. I've decided to backload everything for 8 p.m. onwards.
By default, backloading everything, my friend, because I'm not going to get mine done.
So pretty much any site, I will be having quite a bit of Luka just because I won't be having much of the first 3 games. And that's not, that just ended up being a personal choice because I don't want to be scrambling towards the end of the show just to jam in some players I don't feel too confident about. Yeah,
and that's absolutely fair as we get down to this. And that's sort of, it's kind of the interesting thing. And actually, you know what? I don't think I can get anything done in 6 minutes, but that's sort of how I a lot of times approach this. So for me, it ends up, if you're playing DK tiers, Luka Doncic is the only player that's available on. Now I know my crunches aren't working. He is the only player available in tier 1. Giannis, Westbrook, and Beal all being out. Well, that solves that problem. Let me just hit crunch now because everything else is going to work as I was hoping. So some of the things we want to talk about here are, and we'll get into it after lock a little bit, but we got some good. The thing I like here about Awesemo is the one thing you're not going to see from us and our contributors. You're not going to see a lot of groupthink. Right? We tend to all have our own opinions. We tend to find a variety of ways to get there in DFS. So the thing I always like to say is there are many ways to win at DFS. There are even more ways to lose. So that's something that's very, very important to remember here. And using that promo code 2021, which goes away after tomorrow, to get 3 weeks of Awesemo all access for just $20. Come on, what are you waiting for? Jump in on that. That's something that's important. So even though you'll get, and we all put in the hard work. And that's the thing that I think is very important. You want to know that the people that you're following have put in the heavy lifting. And I know a lot of people, give me crap from time to time. So you forget I've done 2,000 shows, written over 3,000 articles. This is my 33rd year of daily fantasy of fantasy basketball. ninth year of daily fantasy basketball. Seen a lot of stuff here. So basketball, it's all about reacting to different things, but we can all do it a little bit differently. You get Greg Ehrenberg, you get Adam, you get Alex Awesemo himself, you get Lofty, you get Ryan, you get all these guys that have different ways of approaching this. Ben, Raza, etc. Many, many, many ways to win, even more to lose. But you find that voice that resonates with you because we're all putting in a ton of work. We don't get a lot of groupthink. We'll consolidate on some of the obvious plays, but we all approach things a little bit differently. I mean, you talk to Ben, he's a hand builder. You talk to some of our other guys, Adam now is kind of on a stretch where he's built, a 3 lineup guy and playing a lot of cash. Josh only follows the numbers, right? Alex Baker, well, he's the number 1 gamer of all time. Lofty, I wouldn't want anybody else breaking down NBA or NFL. He kind of has that all-knowing, overseeing thing. You got me, I've been here forever. Right. So and we have a whole bunch more contributors here. That's the key thing you're getting from us that you're not getting from a lot of the other sites that we're seeing out there. And we're giving you a chance to jump in for just $20, get basically nearly a month on that one. No other late breaking news here. I'm following your lead. I'm punting on these. I did my DK tiers, the rest of them, fingers crossed. I'm going to go.
So I think we should talk about that. Do I think this is the right thing to do? I don't think it's the right thing
Last night, yes. Tonight, no. Yeah. We're cutting off our nose. We're missing 3 games, and they're good ones. That's the hard part.
And that's just the personal thing that I could just do my own process more confidently than I can do by scrambling it. So there are going to be players. I think we need to talk about the players that do stand out in the Atlanta and Charlotte game. I think, like
Gordon
you said,
Hayward.
Capella, Hayward. Guys who have really strong upsides. Trae Young is also very, very good. LaMelo Ball as well. So there are going to be players who are going to be good in this matchup. I just hope I don't get burned by many of them. That's just the game theory aspect of it.
Yeah, and I will say I feel like at least like you're saying, I've got a fighting chance, and this is something that's important to see us. So we are live on the shows. You've seen me melt down a bunch of times. You've seen Josh, upload back. Greg last night uploaded the wrong file. This stuff happens. You just have to let go, right? You just have to say, okay, you know what? Sometimes good things are going to happen. Sometimes they're not. But I feel much, much better about getting lineups that I have created rather than risking it and then try to sort out who I got, who I didn't get, etc. A couple questions here. Who are your favorite 3K options on DK? Trey Burke would, I think, be leading the charge on that one. Do you like Carmelo Anthony for cheap on DK? I think he's 4,200.
Melo, yeah. If Melo, I like Melo if Rodney Hood is not playing. Is Rodney Hood playing? Rodney Hood is active. He's available to play.
He's available,
yeah. Yeah, so I'm a little skeptical on Melo. I would prefer other options besides Melo. I think you could look to Jarrett Culver if Karl Anthony Towns is in play.
All right, and we are basically at lock. We've got 45 seconds left. By the time you hear this, you're going to have about 15 left for us to get there. I just double checked that I'm playing four game player pool for me and Ryan here as we head in to the way it goes. But it's definitely something that's viable on this. And there's enough decent games at the end. I was looking at that earlier just to make sure I had an escape plan for all of this. Yeah, I'm fine. Is it the best way to go? No. But now that there's no Bradley Beal, makes it a little bit more palatable on that one. I will sadly not have Gordon Hayward. I will sadly not have Clint Capella, but that's okay for this one. All right. Oh, so fun with Awesemo, besides the promo code 2021, which gets you 21 days of Awesemo for $20. I won, using air quotes, the Awesemo free roll for our Christmas party. I finished last out of 50 of us. That was the single game slate where I believe Marcus Mariota ended up stealing the show, if I remember correctly. So my prize is this book, Transformation. All right, you guys may recognize one of those authors there. So Transformation is my book, and because we're Awesemo, they sprung for us, and I got the Snowflake edition. So I have the nice little book, Snowflake bookmark here for this. Now, yes, I'm making fun of one of our former co-hosts. That's quite all right. He has more than earned it. But I do want to say, guys, self-help is definitely a way to go. We've seen far too many people go a little bit stir crazy recently because of politics, because of the election, because of the pandemic, and all sorts of stuff. If you are feeling down, if you're feeling depressed, reach out, just talk to somebody. We're all around here, a friend, a family, whatever. That part, I'm not going to joke about. The other stuff, get somebody that you trust, get somebody that you know is doing the work, and follow us. We put a bunch of stuff out in front of the paywall, including 4 amazing articles each day in NBA. That's because we know the stuff behind the paywall is even better. That's where the secret sauce is. That's where the projection is, and the unparalleled, second to none ownership projections, the player ownership, right? That is key. So that's the important thing that you want to look out. And as someone once said, realize. What do you think is your favorite tool here? I thought it was the boom bust. Sometimes it's the player pool, but I actually like the NBA syllabus when we all herd the cats and are able to put that one in. That's a good one, I think. And
Yeah,
Slack.
I think that's a great one to just hear what everyone's opinions are going into the NBA slate of action, just to hear how everyone's thought process is so different, but they're all like driven to get the same unique outcome. And putting all those thought, that group think all into one process puts you in a position to create a unique lineup. I think there's great contributors across the board just sharing their insight on how to help everyone out. I think my favorite tool definitely has to be the ownership projections, and especially the express night slate ownership projections,
Yes.
because I believe we are the only people in the DFS industry to offer them, and they are by far the most helpful thing, especially for those night slate projections, to take advantage of them. Take advantage of them starting tonight. There's going to be some nice night slate contests to take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. We get those, get that little 8 p.m. slate in there. You get some showdown stuff. And by the way, we've got some other showdown stuff on tap. Little cat out of the bag. I think once we see NFL go away, we're going to see the DFS sites. They're trying to make up for that, 3 months of no sports whatsoever, and gets more of the handle, more of the rake. As they say, I think we're going to see some late night showdowns become very, very popular for NBA. Will they get up to the NBA playoffs and the NBA finals levels? No, they won't. But if there are some island games here, and we do have some of those Thursday slates where there's only 4 games and one distinct late game, I think we're going to start to see some $100,000 to first prize pools, stuff like that. So we're going to be ready for it. We've been doing a lot of our prep behind the scenes. And of course, Alex, you've got Tom Kennedy, the chief operating officer, Tom JK123. You've got Steve Buzzards, the Colts. Those guys all excel at this, like 1-800-EDDIE. I mean, saw him finish like 8th or something in Yahoo last night. RynPak, you going to let that happen? Come on. You got to get there. But we have a lot of guys here behind the scenes that are the top gamers in the world that are producing these tools. And that's the fantastic thing you get here. Get us up to 500 likes here. That'll make us happy. We start over tomorrow, 9 o'clock, 3 hours leading up to the NFL playoffs, 3 games. And then we're going to have the NFL Live Before Lock tonight, starting in about 10 minutes here. You've got NFL Live Before Lock tomorrow night. We're all good. Virtual producer behind the glass, Jordan, says we're done. So with that, pizza, we're out of here.